when we look at the world, we see it's upside down. Martin Geddes, what is going on?
So in some ways, to answer that question requires almost a paradoxical answer. So knowing what's going on is very hard. Finding the truth is very difficult. But it starts with first identifying you're being lied to. So the answer is what's not going on. And I think for many of us, we've felt a deep sense of unease for many years. And we've started to question many of the narratives and stories we've been given. And as we've started to explore and research that, we've come to the conclusion we're being lied to on a big scale. So what's going on is the collapse of a system of belief, and we could call it globalism. And something else is coming. And the discussion we can have is, well, what is that something else? So there is a war going on. And it's a war between deception and discernment. But it manifests itself at different levels. So it manifests itself at the political level with various scandals that are breaking at the moment. So for example, Spygate in America, we can talk about that. It manifests itself at the cultural level, which is, for example, the controlled mass media and propaganda. And it also manifests itself at the spiritual level, which is a very difficult subject to touch on, particularly in a business context, which is about our very understanding of good and evil and what you believe is right and wrong.
Why is it so important that we learn about this now? What is the sense of urgency?
Okay, so my sense is in 2020 we're going to see a massive upheaval in our society. One of the people near and dear to me in my family life, she lived through the collapse of the Soviet Union. And lots of people in the West didn't see that coming. She lived in Lithuania. She saw it, she experienced it. It happened, and we lived to tell the tale. Something similar is happening here, but different. But there's a paradigm shift happening, and it involves the exposure of enormous corruption at the highest levels of government.
On global scale.
On a global scale. Religious institutions, basically many institutions and people that we put our trust into and our faith into and we looked up to, that trust is about to be shattered. It's a trust apocalypse. We kind of have to transcend the idea of there being some kind of grand conspiracy and to understand that there are ordinary emergent processes by which psychopaths take control over society. And their values get spread, and this indoctrination processes happen. At some level, we're talking something that's very ordinary here. How does criminality become extreme criminality and embedded into society? And how do those criminals then attack the justice system, the media, etc., to perpetuate their power? I mean, I think by understanding the nature of psychopaths and psychopathy and the criminality in society, we can start to deal with it and remove it. And that process is already well underway. We'll still be left with human nature. But the critical distinction here is many things that we had attributed to maybe dark aspects of human nature were really the product of a psychopathic system. And if we take that psychopathic system of usury through central banking and funding both sides of wars and remove it, then the world will get much, much, much better very quickly.
Do you feel that this sense of urgency is present at entrepreneurs worldwide to do something?
Okay, so I would say that there's what we might call a schism. There's a divide between those who, quotes, get it and see the world is about to change and those who don't. And this does reflect back on the Soviet collapse. Those in the Soviet collapse who recognized I was a nuclear physicist, but now I sell toothpaste at the street corner, did all right in the end. Those who were totally attached to the old way of doing things, not so much. I think another thing that's going to happen in the near future is the total collapse of trust in the mass media. Now, some of the institutions may collapse as well, some may not. But as these scandals are revealed, it will become very clear that the mass media had become controlled, compromised, infiltrated, and complicit in hiding crimes against humanity. So things like selling the war in Syria, Iraq, this last week we had declassification of documents which proved that the Iraq war was based on false premises. It's like, we knew it before, but now we've got hard proof. Plus it's very hard to discern what the right and the wrong is. People of the most high ethical values and goodwill can get caught up in mass deceptions, propaganda. There's peace breaking out in places we never expected it, North Korea, Syria. There's also trouble breaking out in places we never expected it, like Hong Kong. There's the torching of the electricity company building in Chile. How do you account for that? What's happening here? What's the nature of the geopolitical stress that's going on? All these things are connected.
Yeah.
They're all connected through a much bigger tussle between systems of good and evil.
And it's not just in America, it's
Yep.
global, it's
Global.
everywhere, also in Europe.
Yes.
It has to do with Britain, it has to do with the Netherlands, with Germany, with France, Italy, you name it.
So there's a kind of a paradox or a conundrum here, which is the good versus evil is a simple thing to understand, but the way it manifests itself in the real world is super complex. It's like having a fractal. Of these two things interacting at all scales, and you get some little piece of world affairs, and you're trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And which way up does this go? Which way is good? Which way is evil? What's right and wrong?
Yeah.
What's true and false?
Yeah.
But without the bigger map of the fractal, you can't see where it fits. I would say NGOs, the level of unbelievable illegality of some things, organ trafficking and human harvesting and stuff. In institutions we thought were there for to help us, that's going to blow people's minds. Maybe.
Yeah, we have examples of that as well here
Yes.
in this country.
Yeah, the pharma business, very corrupt, bad news coming. Purdue Pharma is only a small hint as to what's going to come. The opioid crisis, much more of that. Mass media, apocalyptic. Just off the scale collapse of trust in the mass media.